Hi, today we're going to be doing a nice 1 hour easy run wearing the Rabbit Dream Chaser 2.0. Going to see how this feels in comparison to the 1.0. Biggest difference really is the upper. The midsole and down is actually the same as it was on the original. I think it's just a matter of everyone, including myself, having issues with how the upper felt. Definitely not very breathable, just kind of heavy. The changes they made to the upper here cut it down by about an ounce even. I'll have some official numbers in my final review, but at least get some ideas for how this feels. Of note, right off the bat, I am feeling a lot more airflow, especially when I compare it to the 1.0. It has a much more noticeable, breathable upper here instead of kind of this knit pattern that the first one had. This one's utilizing more obvious holes, just kind of all throughout the toe box and the midfoot. I think that's automatically just giving it a much more airy feel. Underfoot so far, and I'm only 2 minutes in, mind you. Feels just like the first version. So, today is Saturday, it's the beginning of August. For about the last month, we have had just absolutely blistering hot and humid weather, and it finally broke earlier this week. Well, today it's about 80 degrees out. I'll take that any day over what we've been having, where we've had mornings well into the 70s with humidity, sometimes even as high as 90, 95%. So this is an absolute gem of a day. Again, yes, I do feel a little bit warm, but I'm not even wearing a singlet. I'm just going with a short sleeve for this one. So right here, I'm already feeling that while this is the first run in the version 2 of the shoe, like I mentioned before, the parts that matter are either the same or improved. They didn't mess with the midsole, outsole design, but they just kind of realized some of the issues that the upper had and put a new upper on here. And how that plays out so far is a much more open, airy design, where the first one, I really like the feel underfoot. First one, if it was over, even like 60 degrees, I would say that it wouldn't be comfortable to wear for anything more than a little while, just because of how still it was in there. So, this being kind of a first run, it's also kind of not, considering I've put some good miles already into the first version of the shoe. This is going to give me a good side-by-side comparison. So the midsole, if I'm not mistaken, is an aliphatic TPU. The feeling of it is very, very like soft, has a good rebound to it. Nice for just cruising. There's a decent amount of rubber coverage on the outsole, not too much. But what they did, one of the things that kind of sets the shoe apart and was absolutely very polarizing when they first put it out, is right under the arches, kind of in the middle of the foot, they put just along the outsole these two little carbon strips. Now, I'm not entirely sure that adds anything to it. Theoretically, it would probably aid a little bit in stability just by kind of stiffening the area just under the midfoot. But again, I don't really think it has added too much to the shoe. Now, the initial versions that came out had just bare carbon, and so a lot of reviewers were not happy because you just scrape and scratch that up, and every step was loud, and I wouldn't like it either, to be honest. But when they redesigned it for production, they put some rubber kind of overlaying it, and that has helped a lot. It's given it just good protection. You do feel that it's going to be much more durable. My runs with this shoe, I haven't really had the opportunity to try it in wet conditions, but the rubber's fairly soft. I feel like it would be on average, kind of an average grip. I don't expect it to be outstanding. I don't expect it to be terrible either. I think you'll get a good, predictable feeling. This shoe has been a bit polarizing for multiple things. So I mentioned the carbon sections. Now, another common complaint I've heard is people having a lot of pressure kind of in the lateral foot, just behind kind of the ball of the foot there, where the fifth MTP kind of comes in. Now, I've also experienced that with the shoe. I can say that it is there. Now, two things that have helped. One, when I first laced it up, I just loosened the laces all the way down. And I'm just very deliberate with kind of how I'm tightening up the chain. And that has made a good amount of improvement. And two, I think it's imperative with this shoe particularly to give it a few just casual wears, maybe a couple light short runs to just get that sock liner broken in. Now, the sock liner, I think, is actually something worth noting because they're using a Blumika, I'm not sure how they pronounce it, liner. And what that does is it in and of itself has a decent amount of cushion and rebound, but then it also is designed to be very durable. And I think that is an important aspect here. Now, after some casual wear and a little bit of easy running, it breaks in nicely. It really forms and molds to your foot. And that really makes all the difference. So, Right now, tomorrow's my first true long run of my Chicago build. Been kind of hanging out in the 2-hour long run mode for a while now. So tomorrow will be the first time I'm going beyond that with a mileage-based run. So I have 16 on board for tomorrow. The way I've been training, I'm only doing about a 10-week build. I think that's going to give me a good spot. I've been hitting some good mileage in just my base, so not too worried about undertraining. About just shy of 2 miles in now on this easy run. Aim for about 7 today. Like I was saying before, this is my first run in this parachute, and it feels really good, honestly. I've been very impressed though so far with just that upper update. Makes a world of difference. One of the things that I'm thinking about, especially with this marathon build, is how I can best remain as consistent as possible. Sometimes the work schedule makes it a little bit challenging to get some of the runs in. And then, frankly, with the weather of last month, the motivation to even just get out was really tough at times. Managed about, give or take, about 140 miles, I think. Maybe a little bit less, I don't remember right off. But really, some of those were absolute slogs. I'm also really trying to embrace the concept of letting my easy runs be truly easy. That is one of the real challenges at times, I think. For people who were following before, they know that I was training to do the Illinois Marathon back in April. I was really looking forward to it, but I had a lot of trouble with the consistency of my runs. My long runs became just constant issues. I don't know what it was, if it was a mindset thing or what, but I ended up stepping back and doing a half instead. Took that base fitness I had, converted it to a little bit of pace, set a 4-minute PR. So I'll be happy about that for sure. But now I'm trying to rethink my focus on my training block. I have a time in mind for Chicago, but I'm not gonna sabotage myself by making that my only goal. One thing that I really like about this shoe is it has, I think, the right balance of ground feel to plushness. Like, you definitely feel what's underneath you. I'm running on some of the rougher asphalt, some of like our paths here. You know, you get a good feel for the texture of it, everything else, but it's not hard, it's not harsh. I think it's very comfortable, actually. I prefer some ground feel to none at all. I know that there's a lot of people that would rather feel absolutely nothing, but to me that bit of feedback is really critical. Coming up this little embankment here, there's a kind of this wood bridge, kind of switchbacks here. I did make some adjustments to my camera ISO setting, so hopefully I'm not completely in the black here. It looks like it's still a little dark, but that's okay. You don't necessarily need to see my face anymore than you already have. So, what I was saying, I think the feedback I get from the shoe and the way it's designed it reminds me a bit of kind of like the Nova Blast, and just how it feels a bit underfoot. We have a nice sturdy feeling platform, because I've always felt the Nova Blast is quite sturdy feeling, at least in versions 4 and 5. And then just underneath the midfoot, kind of the pad of the foot, there's a good kind of spring back to it, where it's not overpowering, it's not anything that makes you run faster necessarily, but it's just a good compression response that takes away a lot of the impact. It makes this a really potentially a good option for even longer runs. 40 minutes in here, feeling excellent, honestly. Been kind of hanging out in the mid 9s. Like I said, one of my goals of this block really is letting the easy runs be easy. I think in my push for Illinois that I aborted, I think I was pushing my easy runs a little bit harder than I should. I had this idea that I wanted to keep like an overall average pace in a certain range, kind of across all runs, and I think that hurt me. So for now, I'm deciding to forgo that and just let my body do what it's gonna do, because I'm just not gonna give up on October 12th. I'm gonna cross that finish line nice and proud, like I always have. So, my big message today, outside of just thinking about this shoe, is let your easy runs be easy. It's, sometimes we have a pride aspect. We got the social media side of things saying like, hey, you did this easy run, but man, your paces were nothing like what you can do. So it feels like you're phoning it in almost. And that's not the case. A lot of times, you're letting your legs do what they have to do. Zone 2. A lot of people hear that term, don't really know what it means. I think for some people that's just because we get so bogged down in numbers. And I am 100% guilty of focusing on data and numbers. But honestly, the best way to think about zone 2 is just be comfortable. You should feel it. Definitely, I'm breathing, I'm feeling my heart a little bit, but I'm still able to comfortably talk for, a sentence or two without too much pause. Now, kind of a little hill here, so questionable, but I promise I'm actually really comfortable here. But what zone 2 effort helps do is really help prime your body to utilize fat stores as energy. Really allows for that, what we call beta oxidation, to happen, because the more efficiently your body can utilize all of its different fuel sources, the better your endurance will be. When it comes to endurance running, we spent a lot of time talking about carbohydrate intake, and that's really important. But at the end of the day, being able to utilize fat stores for energy, that helps you become a more efficient runner, helps you be a little bit more sustainable. I mentioned before how I was really kind of losing motivation for a little while. And again, a lot of that had to do, I think, with the weather and just feeling so miserable after every run. Even good runs were just tough. It was kind of hard to remember why I was doing this all in the first place. And I think we all go through phases in our running where it's kind of hard to remember why we're doing it or what it's all about. And really, it's about fun. That's all there is to it. If you're not having fun doing it, then why are you doing it? Now, we can all define fun in our own way for this. And I think it's important that we all know what it is that we enjoy most. For some people, it's just the monotony, almost like a meditative process, just one foot in front of the other and going. Other people, it's the chase of numbers. Others, it's, just being happy to do something. And so I was thinking about it, and for me, one of the main things is that there was a period of time where I just wasn't able to do it at all. I had just no ability. Even the easiest run, my legs would hurt, knees, shins. It took me a while to just build myself to where I am now. And there have been a lot of really good accomplishments I've had, but one thing that just sticks out to me was crossing that finish line in Chicago the first time, when just only a little more than a year before, running a 5K straight through was something I just had never really done. So being able to do that, regardless of the time, regardless of how much I ended up walking instead of running, covering that distance, getting across that finish line, that was so important. And remembering that not every day is going to be easy in that journey, but at the end of the day, it's worth it at the end. Finding that happiness and that joy in the sport, or whatever sport you do, or whatever you do in your life, that's important. It's more important than numbers on a spreadsheet and any other arbitrary values. If you don't have your heart and your mind in it, then it's not worth it.